Nations Environment Program under a project funded by the Green Climate Fund and implemented by the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination. The objective of today's discussion is to move beyond symbolic approaches and operationalize local-led adaptation through improved access to climate finance, strong institutional mechanism, gender-responsive planning, and multi-stakeholder collaboration across governance levels. Before we proceed, I would like to briefly share a few housekeeping rules. Kindly keep your microphones muted when not speaking. Zoom participants, please use the Q&A box for your questions, which will be addressed by the speakers live. I request our speakers to remain within the allocated time of 8 minutes to ensure a balanced and engaging discussion. Please note that this session is being recorded for documentation purposes and is being live streamed on SDPI's YouTube, Facebook platforms. Please share and subscribe the social media platforms of SDPI for more updates. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored that Ms. Aisha Humaira Chaudhary, Secretary Minister of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, will be joining us shortly as the chief guest for today's session, and we look forward to her valuable insights. To formally begin this session, I would like to invite Ms. Zainab Naeem, Lead Ecological Sustainability and Circular Economy Unit at Sustainable Development Policy Institute, to deliver her welcome remarks and set the context for today's dialogue. Ms. Zainab Naeem, over to you.
Thank you very much, Neelam. And once again, I greet you all a very warm welcome. I'm extremely thankful to all the colleague speakers, development partners, including Humaira, Mr. Shiraz, Ms. Afia, who is very, I'm always grateful to her for joining because the community perspective that she shares is extremely valuable. And then especially to all the planning and development departments from the provinces who have joined us to share their perspective. It shows that how much significance they are, giving to this adaptation perspective. And just we just sent one invitation, and they all accepted. So I'm really, really happy and really grateful to all of you for showing your keen interest. So before we start, and of course, from Sindh we have the Forest Conservation Department. From Balochistan also we have the representative. From Punjab, Mr. Rizwan Ali has joined us representing PND, and also Dr. Ehtishamul Haq from PND Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, who has been instrumental in context of supporting us when we were implementing the district adaptation plans in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa for Charsadda and Karak. So before, I want to be very brief here while we wait for Dr. Saad, because from the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, he is the one who is, leading the National Adaptation Project as a focal person. So I just want to start with what exactly do we call adaptation? I mean, this is a terminology that we imported from the West, of course. Most of the climate terminologies are imported from the West or the global North, because we do not have it in our local languages, or even if we have it, we do not have a local language dictionary. So we say adaptation, mitigation, resilience, unable to understand that there are so many local practices that are actually adaptation, and those local solutions and practices are they can be even adopted by the representatives in the global North. So we do not have to import the practices always from the global North. We have our own locally led solutions. For example, a farmer who is who's doing farming, or maybe he has a vast land with him. Since 2010 and floods, 10 floods, he has been losing the land. He again, sow, and he again raises the fields. He again sells it in the market. And in 2022, there's a heat wave that destroys the entire crop. It gets burnt, but then he doesn't lose hope, and then he again sows. And in 2022, there's a flood that washes away the harvested crop, but then he doesn't lose hope again, and he's back there. This is adaptation. This is the resilience. This is the coping strategy that we have. Then people who are living around the Rotkoi or Salaba or the hill torrent areas, they know where the flood is going to come and it is going to wash away their houses. They move away temporarily, but they get back, practice their farming, and then go away, move away with the move on with the lifestyle. So this is adaptation. This is resilience. A woman who's living in a desert in Thar or Cholistan, she knows, beyond, if temperature is exceeding beyond 50 degrees Celsius, she has to go out. She has to fetch water from the well for her family. This is adaptation. This is how we are moving. She might change the timings of going out when it's when the sun is shining, and when it's too hot she might not go out then, but she might go later in the day, but she will go and to fetch the water because she needs to survive, her family needs to survive. So this is adaptation. We are really grateful to the National Adaptation Plan team, especially for bringing a different perspective around adaptation. Why I call different, although that is not different, but different in a sense that before this national adaptation, we were considering adaptation as something that is going to be in a theoretical framework that we will be giving to the people to adopt. But while working in this project, we realized that this is not something we will be giving to the people. This is something people are going to be giving to us. This is something that departments from the public sector are going to be sharing with us, that what they do as part of their development projects, what they do as part of when they have to implement an irrigation project, when they have to implement a housing project, how they are implementing adaptation practices within those projects, whether that's part of their PC1, whether that's part of their PSDPs or ADPs or whatever you call it, but they're doing it. Even it's in silos, they sometimes don't mention it as adaptation, but they are doing it. So the purpose was to consolidate it. The purpose was to understand how much of those departments, those people understand adaptation, their solutions, and how much we need to understand when it comes to climate adaptation, bringing the community narrative. Plus, another important thing that we focused on was climate risk vulnerability assessments. If we have to come up with any adaptation plan, any that is linked, any climate proofing plan, without having data, without understanding in a particular district, if you're there, what is the top level risk that affects the communities when it comes to climate change? It's not always floods. Even floods have its types. There are pluvial floods, riverine floods, there are flash floods, there are urban floods, there are man-made floods also there. So it's not always floods. It could be heat waves, it could be droughts, it could be landslides or anything else that is being driven by globs or by the climate change. So there are different vulnerabilities at the top of the matrix. You need to prioritize those vulnerabilities and then decide which intervention you will be taking to secure your communities, because our basic purpose is to reduce the vulnerabilities when it comes to adaptation. So I think I've already taken a lot of time, but in the meanwhile, Neelam, till we wait for Dr. Saad to join, maybe we can request Humera to share about the National Adaptation Plan and to give an overview so that we can take more perspectives from our other departments and speakers. Over to you.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Zainab, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to SDPI for organizing this rather important webinar on, the emphasis on how important it is to take the local on-ground, perspectives in the development of these district adaptation plans or the national adaptation plan that we already have. तो जी I'll be speaking more from the perspective of the project manager of this GCF NAP project, which is being implemented by the UN Environment Program, and the NAP team, the project management unit, is supporting the Ministry of Climate Change in the implementation of the NAP. So ji, the NAP, as you all, some of you would know and most of you might know, that the NAP itself was, approved by the cabinet in 2023 August. It is a document that identifies 117 measures under 6 different vulnerable sectors, including agri-water nexus, human capital, natural capital, disaster risk reduction, gender and social inclusion, and urban resilience. So basically, the NAP document, or the NAP, the National Adaptation Plan, it is envisioned that if it is implemented, it will strengthen the adaptive capacity of the country to the adverse impacts of climate change in the medium and the long term. So the formulation of the NAP that happened in 2023 also followed, a certain process that is approved by the UNFCCC. Zainab was mentioning the climate risk and vulnerability assessment. That is where the process starts. That is the initiation point of this process. So the NAP 2023, it was submitted to UNFCCC in 2023. But it was also more around, for compliance purposes. It followed mostly a top-down approach. Of course, there was a thorough consultative process that was followed before the development of this NAP document. However, the project that I am leading now, it looks at the process of this NAP development. तो नैप हमारा बन चुका है, लेकिन जो प्रोजेक्ट है उसके अंदर अभी हम एक बॉटम अप अप्रोच फॉलो करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, जिसमें हम डिस्ट्रिक्ट से शुरुआत लेना चाहते हैं. नैप हमारा टॉप डाउन बना था, थोड़ा सा कुछ अर्जेंसी में बना था, एंड थोड़ी कंप्लायंस होनी थी, UNFCCC को सबमिट किया गया था. हाउएवर अभी उसकी रिविजन ड्यू तो नहीं है, लेकिन कुछ अरसे में होगी. So in the meantime, we thought it would be beneficial if we take a bottoms up approach and we start working at the district level. So currently under the project, we're working, as Zainab mentioned, on the development of the district adaptation plans for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, for Punjab, and for Balochistan, and hopefully going forward, the project will also cover Sindh. So we want to, go ahead with the development of these district adaptation plans, and then the learnings from these should primarily be used for the revision and the review of the NAP itself. So I would, on this note, I would like to thank the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Dr. Ihtisham is here, and the Ministry of Climate Change, of course, and the SDPI for their support to the development of these district adaptation plans. इसमें हमने कोशिश पूरी की है जी कि SDPI जो है वो हमारे implementing partners हैं, और जिस तरह ज़ैनब ने mention किया, we have tried following a whole of society and a whole of society approach, of course within the premises of the province and the district itself. CRVA की बात ज़ैनब ने mention की, हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं अभी community engagement की. अगर मैं आपको शुरू से प्रोसेस का बताऊं तो we in the project are working through the planning and development department. The selection of these districts was also based on an objective criteria. So, a vulnerability index has been developed for all of these provinces, and based on their vulnerabilities, the selection of the districts within Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Punjab, and Balochistan going forward is taking place. So KP में हम लोग जी Karak and Charsada were the two districts that were chosen for the development of these district adaptation plans. And as Zainab mentioned in the start, thorough CRVA, vulnerability risk assessment took place. And within this, there was a detailed desk review that took place. At the same time, there were stakeholder consultations. We ensured that some focus group discussions take place, which were actually representative of all the vulnerable sectors within the community. So the district administration was also fully taken on board, and the planning and development department, of course, which is, we work through the PNDs, so they were completely taken on board as well. And once these CRVAs were prepared, तो इनकी जो वैलिडेशन है, जो कि फाइंडिंग्स एंड रिकमेंडेशंस हैं, उनके लिए भी हम लोगों ने जी एक डिटेल्ड स्टेक होल्डर कंसल्टेटिव वर्कशॉप ऑर्गेनाइज करवाई, बोथ इन डिस्ट्रिक्ट एंड चारसदा एंड एट द प्लानिंग level as well. So the government has completely been taken on board. The communities have also been included in the process, because adaptation it happens at the community levels. Adaptation की अगर हम बात करें तो वो उसकी ज़रूरत है ही हमें इस्लामाबाद लेवल से ज़्यादा विलेज लेवल के ऊपर. तो इस प्रोसेस में हम लोगों ने इंश्योर किया है कि हम कम्युनिटी की जितनी ज़्यादा रिप्रेजेंटेशन कर सकें वो की गई है, और डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स भी ऐसे चूज़ किए हैं जो कि रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हों. Although Pakistan is huge और बहुत सारे districts हैं within one province, लेकिन हम लोगों ने try यही किया है कि we should choose representative districts ताकि आगे जब हम review करें NAP का तो जो findings इसमें और recommendations हैं they should be representative of the entire country. Now, Ji, in terms of institutionalizing the DAP, the DAP proposes the establishment of climate resilient coordination committees that will be represented by all key government line departments and headed by the district administration, the DC, and the district disaster management authorities. अब आइडियली जो भी प्रायोरिटीज जी डैप के अंदर आइडेंटिफाई हुई हैं डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे जस्ट रिसेंटली वी आल्सो अटेंडेड अ वर्कशॉप इन पेशावर जिसमें केपी की जो एडवाइजरी कमेटी अभी बनी है उस पर डिटेल प्रेजेंटेशन केपी गवर्नमेंट ने की थी. So ideally, the connection between the district and the provincial coordination committees or advisory levels is extremely important. In terms of the costing of the district adaptation plan, चारसदा में 98 adaptation measures जो हैं वो identify हुए and 815 million US dollar is the costing that has been done for these 98 adaptation measures. While in Karak, we've been able to identify 76 adaptation measures with a total cost of 24 million US dollars. So of course, financing is another important element for the DAP, and that has to be looked into in a way कि हम multiple financing avenues को tap कर सकें. So the financing for the DAP will be sourced from district and provincial annual development programs, the national climate funds, including the Green Climate Fund and adaptation funds and the other big funds. इसमें donor programs भी use किए जा सकते हैं, public private partnership की भी propositions अगर आप इस district adaptation plan को पढ़ें जो कि later on at some stage we'll share with all of you. So the PPP model has also been proposed in this. The creation of a district climate finance facilitation center has also been proposed in the district administration plan, and this will of course help with resource mobilization. We're looking at developing bankable project proposals and innovative financing mechanisms. So there's a lot that has been proposed within these plans, but of course it needs discussions between the important stakeholders and the governments and how this has to be taken forward. I think the provincial government must make the effort to see where the gaps exist in terms of implementation of these district adaptation plans. And then the suggested measures must be reflected in the district ADPs. I think the ownership from the government, the national government and the provincial government is extremely important. And whatever remains then can also, of course, be different sources of financing, be it the donors or the big funds can be tapped into. Depending on the district itself and what it presents and its district की जो भी उसके features हैं उसके base के ऊपर भी different options suggest किए गए हैं इसमें. For example, royalties from oil, gas, mining sector, corporate social responsibility contributions from private companies, and different innovative mechanisms have been suggested in these DAPs. Similarly, in terms of the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, a 3-tier M&E framework, is suggested, which will guide the DAP implementation, and it will also ensure the alignment with the KP Climate Action Plan, the national climate frameworks at the strategy level, the tracking of climate tag PC1s, departmental work plans, and ADP submissions, and monitoring specific DAP activities at the project level. Particularly in sectors जो कि 6 sectors identify हुए हैं हमारे NAP में वही follow कर रहे हैं DAP में भी. So sectors like water management, agriculture, disaster risk management, etc. We have process and outcome indicators. We've proposed them in the M&E frameworks, and of course gender sensitive approaches are also proposed. So yes, I would just suggest at this point I think sticking to the topic, the community and the government at the local level has been completely taken on board. It has been a very thorough process. All the policy documents that exist and the other key documents have been taken into consideration as well. The CRVA has been done very thoroughly, and the voices of different vulnerable sectors have also been considered in the development of these district adaptation plans. So I'll stop here, and I would suggest कि एक दफ़ा जब हमारे ये district adaptation plans complete बन जाएंगे और final हो जाएंगे तो we will also share them with with the others so that everyone is on board with this. Going forward, we're going to be doing these for Balochistan, 2 districts in Balochistan, 2 in Punjab, and hopefully in Sindh as well. Thank you so much, Zainab. I'll stop here and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Humaira, for sharing overview of National Adaptation Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Saad Khan, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Climate Change Environmental Coordination, who has played an instrumental role in advancing National Adaptation Framework and coordinating closely with provinces and development partners to strengthen Pakistan's adaptation architecture. Now, I would like to request Dr. Saad, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, for his special remarks. Dr.
Thank
Saad,
you very much for having me here. It's always a pleasure. I've been interacting with SDPI in various capacities for the past maybe 2 decades or more, both at official and unofficial level. And in this ministry, again, we are happy to see SDPI as our official partner in a number of projects. Uh, Actually, yesterday and today were a bit very, very hectic for me. Although Ministry of Climate Change is always very um, uh, a place with a lot of happenings each and every day of the year, including weekends. However, I thought that I could spare some time because I just wanted to have a feel of what discussion was going on in this small 2-hour webinar, and also I also wanted to interact with you and learn from you. I think adaptation itself is the need of the hour because the biggest challenge for all developing countries, probably, or the whole world, developed and developing alike, but especially for developing countries, where infrastructure is not that much advanced and where the literacy rate is not too high, where the level of awareness about climate induced changes is not at the optimal level. Hardly you will see a program on television, a talk show, a discussion, a vlog, a blog, which would be talking about anything other than politics. That Mr. So and so has said this, and Mr. So and so has said this, and what does he mean, and so on. I would like to see tens of vlogs or blogs taking place about environment, about scientific development, about artificial intelligence. We have 200 or 300 main vloggers, bloggers, anchor persons, TV media celebrities who have nothing to speak except on politics, and not exactly politics, petty politics. Politics does not mean that they would talk about constitutional amendments, but they would just talk about that so and so Mr. or Miss so and so has said this, and in response they would take the other party's representative to say a counter argument and point scoring. So in this milieu we are operating, where climate change, even the level of awareness, sometimes we need to have a seminar or webinar. And in many fields, I used to teach at the National School of Public Policy, and sometimes we had to have a lecture on monetary policy, or sometimes on trade, and sometimes on environment. And the resource pool for any of the specialized subjects, or AI, or blockchain, or crypto money, the resource pool for any of the major subjects with specialization in the whole country is usually in single digits. 8 or 9 people, being represented at all the institution about that particular subject, or that particular branch or specialization in a broader subject. So this is something that is very tragic, and wherever I happen to have a chance to speak, I highlight that our challenge is not so much climate itself, but lack of awareness about how big the challenge is. There is an Urdu couplet, why nakami matae karwan jata raha, karwan ke dil se ehsaas ziyan jata raha, because it's not that the whole cargo of the caravan has been lost, but there is no understanding or awareness that where we are heading towards or moving towards. So I do think that National Adaptation Plan was a good initiative, and we got some readiness grant of 2.9 million US dollars. But the level of commitment was such that it had to undergo 4 extensions, and we are in the fourth and last extension. And out of the 4 promises where we were supposed to have 2 districts each for adaptation. I don't know. For reasons unknown, only two provinces were selected, Punjab and KP. And it became a challenge to include Balochistan, and then it will become another big challenge to include Sindh now. But if we make district adaptation plans, it only means that they are supposed to be the pilot projects, and they can then be replicated in other districts. So the topography of KP is so different from Balochistan, and topography of Balochistan is so different from Sindh, and so on, that even if we have two districts from KP and two districts from Punjab, their plan cannot be replicated for Sindh or Balochistan. Now, Dadu district would not have the same needs as, let's say, Karakoram or Sadda would, or Sahiwal district, which is one of the two districts shortlisted in Punjab, would their DAP would have no implication whatsoever for developing a DAP or the NAP component for, let's say, the district of Gwadar, which is a coastal district in south of Balochistan. So I think the challenge that we are facing is that red tape is always there, but coming in this ministry, I realized that the government of Pakistan red tape, which being in the government for 3 decades, we used to lament. In the international systems also, there are challenges of bureaucratic challenges of getting things done. But I hope and trust that the Punjab two DAPs, the TORs would be completed soon. We would be procuring the services of some agency to develop the DAPs very soon, because each day, because out of 10 years, which would be the total life of the project from 2017 to 2027, including all 4 extensions, we are into the 4th extension. We have only 15 months left. And we have to make sure that Sindh is included. We have to make sure that Balochistan's request to change the district is approved from whatever forums it takes, and it is required. I had also requested the National Technical Advisor, Ms. Omera, that we need to have a ceremony to launch the DAPs. Because whenever I talk to somebody about NAP, let's say, National Adaptation Plan of 2023, which will be revised and improved based on the learning outcomes from these DAPs. Nobody has heard about this NAP. There is another NAP of the Ministry of Interior, which is called the National Action Plan, and everybody knows what it is, because there are talk shows, there are debates. Whenever there is a terrorist incident taking place, people just start highlighting that this point of NAP was not fully implemented, and that was the problem. So National Action Plan. But less people know that maybe 10 or 50 multiple times more people die because of climate change induced problems than from terrorism all over the world, including in Pakistan. How many people have been killed because of terrorism in the past 10 or 20 years, and how many have been killed, let's say, because of cholera or because of diarrhea or because of waterborne diseases or because of air pollution? That are the challenges that we have. So this NAP, National Adaptation Plan, we will have to change the acronym as well, because if we don't have a different name, then we won't have an identity. If we have 3 additional secretaries in the ministry, let's say, and all 3 are named Saad, then we will have to include something like Saad Khan and Saad Abbasi, and so to determine that this was the guy who was saying this thing. So if then the government has 2 major plans, and both are called NAP, one is Action Plan, the Ministry of Interior, and one is Adaptation Plan, that is also, for example, we can make it NPA, National Plan for Adaptation, or something of that sort, or Pakistan's Adaptation Plan, PAP, or something. That's one thing. The other is that the two DAPs that have been approved, I requested actually Ma'am Humaira that we should have a ceremony, a seminar, a webinar, something that people should know, and the other promises should be on board again, and their P&D department should start helping us in expediting that. Yeah, that's very important, and KP has done it, so why not Punjab or Sindh or Balochistan? So because just the 3% sitting in the PMU cannot, make and operationalize the DAP of the whole country of 250 million. Actually, the help from all 6 P&D departments of the 4 provinces, AJK and GB, is also crucial. And a leadership role of the ministry is also crucial. because as long as the ministry has, I think about 23 projects and about 16 or 17 plans or grants, so it becomes 40 and another 40 MEAs, multilateral environmental agreements, which the ministry is custodian to, the like Nagoya Protocol and Basel Convention and Rotterdam Convention and UNFCCC and Biodiversity Convention, CBD Convention of Biodiversity, and so on, 40 other. So actually, the ministry is there's so much on the plate of the ministry that NAP becomes just one of the 80. In fact, everything becomes one of the 80. The 10 billion tree tsunami becomes one of the 80 priorities. NAP becomes one of the 80. Convention of Biodiversity or Convention to Combat Desertification, CCD. So actually, we have to prioritize that there would be 4 or 5 or 6, which would be the flagship projects of the ministry, and ministry would devote maximum resources because otherwise it is too spread out. So I don't want to sound negative, but I thought that since I was representing the ministry, so I should speak my heart out about these issues. So that's all I had to say. I just a few points, and thank you very much for having me here. But since unfortunately I am committed to multiple meetings right hereafter, I will be here for another 10-15 minutes, but then I'll have to rush towards another meeting. So thank you very much once again for having me here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saad, for your valuable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have representatives from all 4 provinces. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Ministry of Climate Change just recently completed 2 district adaptation plans for Karak and Charsada. I would now like to invite Dr. Ihtisham ul Haq, Chief of Section IDS Planning and Development Department, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, who has been highly supportive in mainstreaming climate priorities within development planning and aligning adaptation considerations with provincial development processes, to briefly reflect on how our district adaptation plans being mainstreamed into provincial development plannings and ADPs, and what are the institutional and financial challenges limit effective implementation and what reforms are needed. Dr. Ihtisham, over to you.
Planning and Development, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Department. Dr. Ihtisham, if you can please share your perspective. All right, Neelam, maybe you can ask the team to drop him a text or call. In the meanwhile, we can move on to the next speaker.
Sure.
The प्लानिंग एंड डेवलपमेंट केपी डिपार्टमेंट, आप डॉक्टर एहतशाम, अगर आप हमें ज्वाइन करके आप अपने रिमार्क्स शेयर कर ले प्लीज. जी
Madam, I'm online. Just give me a second. Let me connect, please.
ओके ओके श्योर. इन द मीनवाइल वाइल डॉक्टर एहतशाम जब तक ज्वाइन करते हैं, चैट बॉक्स में एक क्वेश्चन है कि some bilateral organization has already developed the adaptation plan. बिल्कुल, this was taken into account when we were developing adaptation plan. हम लोगों ने adaptation plans जिसमें निदा पाकिस्तान है, FCDO है, इसी मोड है, और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन WWF है, उन्होंने adaptation plans बनाए हुए हैं केपी में कुछ districts के, तो हम लोगों ने उन सबको acknowledge किया है. And it's not that this was being done in silos. They were, we had meetings with them. The only thing that was not there in their adaptation plans was the CRVA, Climate Risk Vulnerability Assessment. And without a CRVA, adaptation plan becomes an anticipatory approach that is more community centric, but without any planning and format. So that's why ये बनाना पड़ा. So over to you, Dr. Ehtisham, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, we'd like to acknowledge the effort that you guys have made in jotting down the district adaptation plans for us. And as you have yourself pointed out, that these have been an improvement on what we already have within the 9 districts for which we have already made the adaptation plans. So this was a big improvement, not just in terms of the climate risk vulnerability assessments, but also the prioritization and the costing that you have provided with us, so that this becomes an actual guiding policy document for the government rather than shelf document, which I usually say about the DAPs that have been previously incorporated. The government is fully committed to incorporate these DAPs, as you have jotted down, into the upcoming ADPs. We are trying to maximize the interventions based on these DAPs in the 2 districts in the upcoming ADP, और फिर हम इसको over the period of next 3 years हम इस DAP को completely implement करना चाहेंगे within these 2 districts. We're also trying to rehash and revitalize the previous DApps that were created and format them according to what you have already done. Climida, which is the GIZ tool, that is also helping us in rehashing the previous DApps based on what you have provided to us. So your document actually becomes a trailblazer for us, through which we would be improving the previously submitted apps and then incorporating them into the ADP starting from July 2026. So we once again thank the SDPI for their great effort, the support from the UN agencies which have come in supporting you guys to support us. So this basically serves as the first policy document in terms of DAP. And once again, thanks to the Ministry of Climate Change, who actually provided with the new templates on which the standardized DAPs could be created.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ehtisham, for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also honored to have Mr. Shiraz Ali Shah, head of the Resilience, Environment and Climate Change Unit at the United Nations Development Programme, Pakistan, who will be reflecting on how UNDP is strengthening Pakistan's adaptation framework at the national level, supporting institutional coordination and identifying pathways to scale pilot initiatives through climate finance and strategic partnerships. Mr. Shiraz Ali, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neelam and Zainab. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, congratulations to STPI and the and NAP team for organizing this event on such an important topic. As you know, because of the climate vulnerability of Pakistan, the local communities will always be at the front line of climate impact. And that is exactly where adaptation should start. I would like to take my lead from what Dr. Saad Saab said, that the adaptation needs of every district of Pakistan are extremely different. I mean, because of the diverse topology of the country. The local adaptation needs in a district in Gilgit-Baltistan would be very different from those in a district in Sindh, such as Cholistan, and that requires locally led adaptation. And I think, building on what Humaira said, district level work should just be the start of designing a comprehensive local level adaptation plan, because even within districts there are different topologies. I mean, we have in Balochistan some districts that take 10 to 12 hours to travel. So you cannot have a single plan for a district and expect it to cover the entire population or the vulnerable population. However, having said that, I think this is a starting point, a very good starting point in the context of the adaptation and the resilience governance mechanism of the country. I think investment at district level had been non-existent. And I think with these district level adaptation plans, we are going to be able to take this work forward, but it just shouldn't stop at the district level, but go much, much deeper to the community levels. And one of the things I saw in the concept note, which really clicked with me, is that these adaptation plans should be gendered, not only local, but gendered, because females continue to be one of the most vulnerable segments of our society and are at more risk of impacts of climate change. I think the gender aspect should be considered. Now, looking at what you asked about the UNDP's role, so UNDP recognizes that the first step in assisting the country in identifying and implementing appropriate adaptation options is to analyze the needs of the local communities. As noted in Pakistan's initial national communication, there is a strong need for improving information sharing, education, and training, technical and scientific research to articulate an effective adaptation plan. The need to support locally led and owned adaptation priorities through decentralized finance and decision making is central to an effective and efficient implementation of sustainable development and environmental policies and programs. In case of UNDP, local level adaptation has always been at the foundation of our disaster response and recovery plans. In response to the 2022 floods, UNDP has been implementing a significant flood recovery program which focuses on housing reconstruction, rehabilitation of local infrastructure, as well as enabling the communities to face the impacts of future disasters, as well as climate change related episodes. And local led adaptation is one of the keystones of that project. Building further on that, UNDP has recently started implementation of the recently approved small grants program from the Global Environmental Facility. And this is going to be a multi-stakeholder landscape approaches based program consisting of local-led adaptation, synergizing initiatives producing global environmental benefits and improved livelihoods. It will act as an incubator, helping to connect successful and promising initiatives with other channels for continued support while advocating for enabling environment and supportive policies. There are limited other such platforms as the small grants programs in bridging meaningful interaction among civil society, government agencies, and private sector and other partners. The local led adaptation grants would go a long way in creating, enhancing resilience to the impact of climate change and ensuring that the vulnerable segments of the societies have some level of protection against these impacts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shiraz Ali Shah. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of Ms. Nadia Shafiq, Senior Chief Environment and Climate Change at the Planning and Development Board, Punjab, we are being joined by Mr. Rizwan Ali, Assistant Chief Environment and Climate Change Planning and Development Board, Lahore, to share how adaptation is being prioritized within Punjab's development agenda and budgeting processes and what opportunities exist to institutionalize local-led adaptation within planning and appraisal systems. Mr. Rizwan Ali Shah, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Neelam, and my special thanks to SDPI and MOCC for organizing this valuable webinar regarding adaptation. So, as you might know, that Punjab is at the forefront of climate-induced disasters, being the agriculture economy or the agriculture province of Pakistan. So, ever since our Senior Minister Environment, Ms. Mariam Aurangzeb, has taken over the charge of the Environment Ministry as a Senior Minister, she has paid a quite heed to the issues related to climate change. Adaptation is one of the sectors of that overall scheme of things. So I would like to share that recently, under her instructions and guidance and vision of Chief Minister, there is a climate resilient vision and action plan 2024, which is a policy document for the government of the Punjab to kickstart the initiatives under the adaptation for the province of Punjab. If we talk about different sectoral sides of that adaptation, so first of all, in terms of budgetary allocation, as you mentioned in your question, we have undertaken the climate budget tagging during the current financial year. That is the first of its kind in the province of Punjab, and we came to know that there is 795 billion PKR allocated to overall climate change portfolio from the 1240 billion ADP of the Punjab government, and out of that 795, approximately 277 billion Pakistan rupees are allocated to the adaptation projects in the province of Punjab. So it also speaks the volume of attention being given by the province of Punjab to the adaptation side. So as I mentioned before, that there is a policy document, and that document is a live document actually, but we have tried to cover all particular aspects of adaptation as to whether this adaptation relates to the water sector or it relates to the agriculture sector, urban development, and so on and so forth. So, for example, in terms of water, uh, we are trying to, enhance the water conveyance efficiency of the canals and, water channels of the Punjab. Besides that, we are also working on, having a check on underground water extraction in the province of Punjab. And there are certain acts and policy documents which support those interventions in the province of Punjab. And moving forward, we are also trying to, build on hill torrent and small dams in the Potoha region of the Punjab in order to, increase the water availability and enhance the water efficiency. We are implementing higher efficiency irrigation systems. We are implementing drip irrigations, etc. So people are quite aware of the fact that for the urban resilience, we are seriously confronting the issue of smoke, especially in the city of Lahore and followed by all major cities of the Punjab province. So that major issue is being confronted by strategic policy instrument titled Punjab Smoke Mitigation, Climates and Resilience Action Plan. So under that action plan, we are trying to, adapt to the different, disasters as to whether it is induced by, anthropogenic activities or it is naturally, for example, heat waves. We are building on, shelter homes and shelter places in those areas in order to minimize the, impact of the heat waves on the people and so on and so forth. And we are also, for the first time, under the vision of Senior Minister, we are implementing Punjab Climate Observatory, which is a hub of, knowledge, which will be a hub of the knowledge for the province of Punjab, because we believe that the data which is available with the government and the modeling which is required in order to tackle the issue of climate change is not supporting enough to the policy implementation or the policy decision making. So that's why we are implementing a Punjab Climate Observatory, which will be a repository of the climate change disasters data, and that particular institution will also be undertaking modeling in order to create future projections. So moving forward, as I mentioned, there are a lot of activities which are being done under the annual development budgeting of the Punjab province. We are also trying to, implement the rain harvesting technology, especially in the offices of the public sector. And we are also implementing rain harvesting in the districts of Murray. So a list is a huge, which I fear I will not be able to cover in a very short period of time. But Punjab is rightly on the right track, even though the quantum of funding or the quantum of resources required in order to tackle the issue of adaptation is quite huge one. So moving forward to the last part of your question, the district level adaptation plan. So yes, we fully agree and we fully feel that there is a dire need to further downscale, the climate change planning and climate change implementation and things like that at the grassroots level, wherein the grassroots root level participation is ensured in order to have a proper planning and policy making. So just one example I would like to quote here, that I recently went on a course and wherein there was a Brazilian colleague of mine, and she told me that in Brazil there are more than 800 local councils, and the climate change subject is devolved to those 800 councils, and those 800 councils has a centralized coordination and implementation mechanism in place. So if we talk about the districts of Punjab or Pakistan, the number will not be that much huge, I believe. So at the district level, at the tehsil level, even at the union council level, we are quite cognizant of the fact that we need to downscale this climate change and we need to downscale the adaptation, because as Dr. Naeem, as Adam Naeem was mentioning, that there are certain activities which are being undertaken by the communities before any plan is being implemented. We need to measure and we need to embed those activities, and we need to plug the gaps, identify the gaps, and then plug the gaps at the district or tehsil level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rizwan, for sharing the key interventions which Punjab has taken to strengthen climate resilience in the province. Now, representing Sindh, I would like to welcome Mr. Riaz Ahmed, Chief Conservator of Forest, Riverine and Inland Forest, who will speak about the large-scale ecosystem restoration initiatives, particularly how community ownership can be strengthened and how ecosystem-based adaptation can be better integrated into provisional planning frameworks. Mr. Riaz Ahmed, over to you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. My connection is not that good. I think, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
जी जी
जी आ रही है, बिल्कुल साफ आ रही
Okay. Okay, sir. But since I'm a part of the government of Sindh, and I have to speak on the process of restoration, especially what we are doing in the field of climate change and the adaptation and mitigation actions that we are taking in various ecosystems in Sindh province. Basically, this process that started 10, 15 years back with the awareness about the environment and the ecosystems, Sindh has adopted different approach right from the beginning, and our ecosystems, which were depleted to the extent that its restoration was need of the hour. So all along with this programs like RAID and RAID Plus, CDM, and all these were being implemented in various parts of the world and in the country as well. But we adopted different approach. And we invited this public-private partnership modality to restore the forest, to address the community needs, and to make that action sustainable. So, with the blessing of Almighty, we were able to restore our mangrove ecosystem to about 40% now from the baseline. If we say that at that time when we started these projects, the baseline was around 100,000 hectares. And now we have now reached 80,000 hectares, which is about 40% of the total area of mangrove forest ecosystem in Sindh. And this process is continued, and we hope that in next 5 6 years we will be able to restore this ecosystem to the extent of about 80%, which is really a big achievement alongside with the needs of the communities which are dependent on these forests. We are tackling that as well. The coordination mechanism has been established with the other departments like irrigation department, the fisheries department, so that we can carry out our activities in a coordinating manner. So all these things, as we know that these are the requirements of any activity, any action plan that is you can say successful on ground. So all these activities are in commensurating with those recommendations, global recommendation, which are required for the restoration of any ecosystems. And then if we restore the ecosystem, we definitely resistant to so many vagaries of the climate and all issues that we are tackling. Same approach we have now adopted in our riverine forests, and we are going to sign an agreement tomorrow with the private parties to restore at least 100,000 acres of forest in Matiari and Jamshoro districts, alongside the development of project design documents, and the investment for the restoration is to be done by the private party in those areas. So yes, we are moving towards these actions uh, in a way that we are addressing your concerns as well that are being adopted under this DAP program, whereby you are going to address the issues on district level. And I'm little bit worried that why Sindh and Balochistan are still lagging behind. And this process has been started, as you said, that since 2023. And why, I don't know, we have been lagging behind. We should be part and parcel of this program. And I hope that same government and planning and development department, who has very dynamic chairman nowadays, and he will take it seriously. And our two districts, mainly, I think the most vulnerable districts will be included in this program. So this is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rizwan, for your insights. Now from Balochistan, I would like to invite Mr. Mohammad Asgar, Director Climate Change at the Environment Department, to discuss how the province climate policy is supporting local-led and community-driven adaptation, the key vulnerabilities it addresses, including drought, water scarcity, and extreme heat, and strategies to better integrate adaptation measures into provincial planning and decision-making processes. Mr. Mohammad Asgar, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Madam. First of all, I would like to thank SDPI for this platform and opportunity. It is indeed a good to share knowledge and engagement to enhance and spread the understanding of the subject that we are talking or we've been talking. Uh, Because it is comparatively new term, I'm talking LLA in the context of LLA. In the climate change lexicon, we are still living in the era of National Adaptation Plan, which merely talks in the implementation strategy, talked about the community level action. That too, I think, in one paragraph in the implementation strategy. Why have we failed to make district level plan or nominate our districts from Balochistan? I will respond it shortly. But let me be context specific. The decentralization or the decentralization philosophy is not something new. It was there for decades before entering into the climate change adaptation area. But this centralization idea in climate change adaptation context, I think, is evolving. I have heard and practiced locally implemented, locally managed, locally planned, locally owned, now locally led adaptation. Uh, it is it's I think all about all boils down to something strengthening the voice of most vulnerable people in the decision making, including women. Now, women empowerment, of course, is not just a feel good slogan. It's a game changer strategy. And we also need to revisit our traditional idea of community, perhaps as a victims of climate change. Being forefront of climate impact, the community can be a potential partners. We should have realized it long time ago. We unfortunately didn't, and we need to take them as beneficiaries instead of we should not see them as beneficiary. State usually see them as beneficiary. In fact, they are the agent of change. Now come to the concept of locally led adaptations and what we are doing. I think it needs different project design and finance delivery mechanism, as mentioned by Shiraz Saib in his talk, which should be devised by local people. I mean, now this type of adaptation is new and it requires flexibility, of course, coordination from multiple people at governance level across the board. Now, as for Balochistan is concerned, now across the globe, climate change is impacting communities unevenly, but hitting them hardest where the capacity response is weakest. That is where we are standing. Balochistan stands as a stark example even within Pakistan. Now, Balochistan climate change policy was approved in 2004, but we are using the terminology as community-led adaptation initiative rather than locally led adaptation. I really don't know if other provinces are using this terminology in their document as a legal term. What we are currently doing for this, we especially allocated 500 million rupees for such project. This 500 million will be released not as per government procedure because the process is cumbersome. There are committees of various level with bulky documents. Now, participants of this meeting from public sector are very much aware or familiar about the committees at provincial, divisional, and district level for approving. What we did is to send the certain amount of money to the community and let them decide from the end to finish. We are supposed to allocate the fund to the district government, district adaptation committee. We don't have the district adaptation plan, but we uh, came up with the idea of district adaptation committee. And we are receiving concept notes. For example, Jivni is a coastal town, and there is a wetland. We called it a Ramsar site. And the local community submit concept note for protection of eggs during the breeding season of endangered marine turtle as a part of preservation of diversity. And similarly, communities in many other areas, in villages of Sibbi and Kech districts are using a traditional earthen pot, the made of baked clay to keep the drinking water cool during the heat waves where the temperature hit 52 centigrade last year. So these are the some initiatives that are being financed from this concept. But at the same time, there are issues. The top one, I think, the institutional arrangement. We need institutional arrangement to be transformed into the delivery platform as per context or as per local context. Uh, Funds should not be centralized. Right now, we don't have a mechanism to convey those funds to the district level because we don't have a separate account, and we have decided not to use existing government procedure to connect with the community because that is cumbersome, and we then create distance between them. But then how to align the local priorities with global changes, because there is no box need to be ticked as we do in our PC1 schemes. The issue is stakeholder at the local level are different values, skills, and perceptions. A middle ground is always needed for the government, which is sometimes difficult if you see the things from the audit point of view or government point of view. Then of course, but with the passage of time, with the awareness and understanding of policies deriving from locally led adaptation and the principles to ensure this proper implementation. Um, a recommendation, I would say the structural inequality are there which need to be rectified, and local knowledge, integrated local, traditional, and indigenous knowledge to inform the adaptation decision at the local level is something we need to do. That is not possible without community engagement and a resource allocation. Um, well, in conclusion, I think the outlook is not entirely bleak, though we don't have still a district adaptation plan, but virtually, I think perhaps one of the reason is we are selecting only 2 districts among 41, 38 districts. So we need to resolve this issue. I think in order to work at community level, we must be community oriented. We need to see the people, hear them, and stand by their side. But this need, again, development institutional framework and update our national adaptation plan as well as the district adaptation plan. The documents are live and should be open for revision. Money, with all its dark-sided, is still a game changer when it comes to the adoptive measure led by local people. So we need to find sponsors. I think uh, Shiraz Saib mentioned certain fundings by the UN, a window of funding from the UN, and we would like to avail this opportunity in coming days. So this is the end from my side. Over to you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Now, our last speaker, before I inviting our chief guest, Ms. Aisha Humera, Secretary, Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, Ms. Afia Salam, environmental journalist, I request you to share your thoughts on community perspective and what local-led adaptation looks like beyond policy language and how marginalized voices can meaningfully influence adaptation planning, implementation, and accountability mechanisms. Ms. Afia Salam, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, STPI, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this very important, webinar, which is sort of a curtain raiser to the rollout of the document. And I would definitely like to take a very good look at it. So I think this has come at a very important time. And because of the difficulties that we were assessing even a week ago have sort of become irrelevant, and we are more uncertain and more worried about what is going to pan out, how things are going to pan out, and what is adaptation, but trying to cope with similar issues and situations. So I've been introduced here as an environmental journalist, but I also work with the communities in the development sector through community organizations in a voluntary capacity. And for any local level outreach, communication is the key, because our sector is riddled with jargons. Many of our participants have also said that these terms, they don't, the people we actually want to do things for. And then again, that is the top-down approach that Mr. Saad had been talking about. They are encased in those acronyms and in the policy documents, etc. And oftentimes explanations tend to confuse and overwhelm the recipient or the audience instead of bringing clarity. So, I mean, I can just give an anecdotal example that while talking to some uninitiated yet aspiring environmental journalists who were not familiar with any of the terms that we have been using over here, and our friend from Balochistan has very aptly described that we are using old terms in the new age. So to explain to them mitigation and adaptation, instead of diving into those long, lengthy paragraphs of explanation, and there was paucity of time, they had to leave for a field trip after that. So all I could come up with that, look, all of us have been on the road behind trucks and buses which have this phrase written, pass kar ya bardasht kar. And I said, okay, pass kar is mitigate. I mean, if you're doing something, stop doing it. So that's mitigation. So that is pass kar. And bardasht kar is adaptation. You can't change climate change. You can't reverse it. You can't arrest it. But the fallout for the communities is something that we have to look at. And I think it is in this context that we need to drill down to the local level. And I know that over here, the district is being looked at as local. But in a country as vast and as diverse, geographically, demographically, I think the structure, the governance structure that was put in place and is not there actually fully is what local should mean. Maybe the UC level, the community level, we really are very, very vast. And within one district, there is so much of disparity that you cannot have one plan unless you're addressing all those small communities which are living in some other part of. I can give you the example of Delta, which has 2-3 districts. And I can also give you the example of our desert district, which is Tharparkar. Many of its parts are more in sync with what is happening in southern Punjab. And the rest of, even within Tharparkar, Nagar Parkar is different, Tharparkar is different, the biodiversity is different. So my plea for whoever is now seriously looking at implementing some solutions or implementing adaptation is that they really have to go below the district level. And I'm also wondering if, at the time it was mentioned when Humaira was giving her presentation that a lot of earlier interventions were looked at, or rather the work that has been done, because district development plans by IUCN of, I think, 8 or 9 districts were prepared. They were very comprehensive. Then Lead Pakistan had developed the LAPA of several districts, Balochistan and Sindh. So those became they can serve as a template of a district plan which can go in sync, because now obviously there are new mechanisms, new financial mechanisms and new terms, etc., that have to be embedded into it. We also have our the CC gap. So that readiness grant has taken care of what can be done to mainstream gender. And so we need to sync all those things, collect all that data, and then come up with something that can serve people at the ground level, which isn't really something just at the district level will help. In my opinion, or in my eyes, the whole adaptation landscape is like a pyramid. So the base is where all the vulnerable communities lie, and the apex is the governance structure. So which has the responsibility as well as the power and the resources vested in it to keep the base safe. But in between is where you can see these examples, because as your title of this webinar states, that local adaptation without the optics. So people are not really sitting for the translation of the plans that are made, the policy documents, etc., and then something to come down to them. They're taking action. And this is a region which has thousands of years of wisdom, which we have somehow left behind. And Zainab very rightly said that we've imported terms and we've imported the ethos and the thought process from the West. Whereas here in this very subcontinent, in this very region, we have solutions to many of the problems that we are now realizing are because of climate change. The rising heat, the desert dwellers always had buildings which were resilient to that kind of heat. Otherwise, temperatures of 52 and above in many parts of Balochistan, some parts of southern Punjab, and many parts of Sindh are not something that have started happening now. Climate change is showing us that they are happening earlier than they used to. Not in the summer, we've experienced 50-degree plus temperatures. So I'll just give, I'll just mention rather those local adaptation without the optics, because it came from their desire to do something about the impacts that they were feeling without putting a name to them, without fitting it into some acronym. So it is the locals who are doing experiments with glacier grafting in our HKKH. This was not in any playbook, in any of the adaptation playbooks that were written from any region of the world. We had a 9-year-old Iman Danish crafting a doll with scraps of waste, and she made it a mascot for thrift and recycling to, motivate her peers. So because we are not only diverse ethnically, we are also diverse as far as our profile, our age profile is. So we usually address our own peers in similar surroundings, but it's each and every segment of population which needs some kind of a mascot or some kind of a motivator. Then we have one tech entrepreneur, or techpreneur as they are called, Shahzad Qureshi, who stumbled upon a video while just scrolling through, and he stumbled upon this Miyawaki way of forestry. And he brought it to Pakistan. He introduced it here because it's one of the fix, not a silver bullet, but one of the fix for our urban spaces. So to make them green, we are concrete jungles. We are not only building, we are expanding concrete jungles, because we cannot put a cap on our population growth. So everything is connected. Then we have, we have an architect, Shahid Saeed Khan. And most of the examples, I'm sorry, I'm quoting from, the area where I work in Sindh. But glacier, of course, is something that I had seen, and I was very interested in that. But these are all my experiential observations. He is trained in earth buildings, and he's built them. They are disaster resilient. They are zero carbon when we didn't even know that zero carbon was a thing. Because many of the Sindh's building were like that. They are well ventilated. We had wind catchers facing Karachi. We had them in Hyderabad. We had them in Thatta. So what is that if not adaptation to the kind of elements that were affecting them? I deliberately took out a lot of mention from what is happening in the Delta when I saw Riaz's name over there, but he's the best person to talk about it. But I have gone and seen, and I have also gone and seen the gender divide, socioeconomic as well, the economic profile being bridged through the intervention that the Sindh Forest Department is taking with private sector, with government sector, with the. So I've seen those success stories myself. So these are without optics. You don't get people to hear about it or beat a drum about it, but they know that this they have to do. They are young students who have been building bamboo rafts to create floating wetlands. So international community has, acknowledged their efforts, and this is where, and there is a community. It's an online community. Most of them are based in Islamabad, who are experimenting with permaculture because they know that we cannot keep on doing what we have been doing earlier. We have to change our ways of consumption, of production, of which are negatively impacting the soil health as well as human health. So we have people like this. Then there are artists. Some are trying to save the Bulan through the artistic, renditions. So this is where, the base of the pyramid is active, and all the other things, and is active because it needs to be active, whether the apex gets to them or not. The top of the pyramid is serving their needs or realizing their vulnerabilities because they are the frontline communities. So when we talk about district level, we must also acknowledge the fact that we do not have local government everywhere, and the way it was envisaged in the governance structure. And unless and until we go down to the smallest unit, how will you implement so that the frontline communities are all not just taken care of, but that they can hold some people accountable? Our districts are just too big. Not every district is, like you for Balochistan, you drive for 12 hours, you're still in one district. So local communities need to be connected. It has to be a bottoms-up approach, and I'm happy to see that the realization is there now. I hope that this process will get to Sindh. I really still do not understand why Sindh was not part of it, and also Balochistan came in late now in the 4th iteration. So something needs to be done about that, whether the lack was from the provincial administration, which wasn't very forthcoming, or whether it was that nobody really reached out to them that you have to be part of this. This is a national process. So that is something that I would like to understand. If somebody can tell me today, that's fine. But my, my plea, I'm not making, my plea is that drill down to the lowest level, because that is where the vulnerabilities are, and that is where those people do not have a voice. So I feel, as a communicator, I would like to thank you for providing me this platform, that I would take off my, development hat. I will only use the observations that I've learned from there, but I will use my communications hat here, that we need to communicate. We need to communicate what vulnerabilities actually are without getting them hamstrung because of the terms that need to be used. Because if you are looking for partnerships and small grants, the communities do not have the capacity to tailor their concepts into these very, very straight-jacketed forms and templates. So that there is this gap that needs to be, bridged somehow. Thank you. I'm open to questions if anybody wants to ask.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Afia. I think the kind of community narrative that we wanted to hear is exactly that you have shared. And I think around your question around why Sin was not taken, and why, the project, as Dr. Saad highlighted, started 8 years ago. And there have been, sometimes positions within ministry gets changed, and then sometimes governments change. Sometimes there are other hurdles. So I think those were the challenges, that the project couldn't be streamlined the way it could have been. But now it is being streamlined, and that's why the ministry is trying their level best to integrate all the provinces. I would take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest, Madam Secretary, Ms. Aisha Humaira Chaudhary, Secretary, Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am, and for for your time from your busy schedule. We know that I always, whenever I'm talking about ministry, I always say nobody in ministry sleeps, not even over the weekend. So they're always working. They do not have the 9 to 5 or like nowadays 9 to 3 schedule. They're always working. So thank you. I know your schedule is really tough. Without further ado, I would like to request you to share your remarks, please.
Ji, thank you very much. all the distinguished guests, SDPI team, and colleagues from development sector and provincial governments. So it's really a pleasure for me to be part of this exercise. And very good afternoon, and I hope all of you are having good Ramzan. First of all, I would really like to thank SDPI and the National Adaptation Team for organizing this event. I think it's very important that although we keep on talking about adaptation, and this is probably the word used maximum number of times in the ministry as well, and by all the development partners, but it's very important to unpack it and see that what does it mean for the communities, and how much awareness we have been able to create, and what can we deliver to them. Because at the end of the day, adaptation would be useful if we can do transition at the community level. We can provide them services which equip the local level to handle calamities in a better way, and increase their resilience. So this title of webinar of Going Beyond Optics, I think is very timely, that we need to scratch this surface and look at from the lens of someone who is caught in these calamities, whether it's flood or glacier melt or heat wave. So I think from the perspective of that local community, whether it's a farmer whose crops are not delivering, who is facing monsoon and not getting a good price for the crop, or the school children who are unable to attend their schools and their education is disrupted, or people who are sick, or pregnant mothers who are unable to access medical care. I think it's the perspective of community and the people that needs to be brought in adaptation. Similarly, we have to think also from the perspective of government departments and those who are at the district level for the delivery of all the services. So how do we ensure that the regular working of the government at the district level becomes resilient and adaptation is integrated in that? I think that is a real challenge that all of us need to think if we want really to make a difference at the community level. In the policies, we talk about adaptation as something which includes natural capital, or food security, water nexus, or urban resilience, human capital, disaster risk management, and the importance of gender, youth, and social inclusion. But again, as some of the previous speakers have said, that these things remain vague concepts unless and until they are transformed into real interventions and creating positive impact on the lives of the communities. So I think in this whole exercise of what NAP has been doing, and SDP is also engaged in the development of some of the district adaptation plans. I think the government, although has been trying its best to improve governance, but still we don't have very functional local governments. So that I think is also a very big challenge, because some of the services that we want to be friendly to adaptation are provided at the local government level. So how do we ensure that districts have adaptation plans? And over a period of time, footprint of government has reduced. When I used to work in the Ministry of Agriculture, extension service was a very important function of the provincial governments and the federal ministry. But now, as the reforms are happening, and some of the services which we think are much better to be provided, for example, in the private sector, government footprint is reduced. So I think extension service is one area where adaptation is extremely important. And we have started relying actually more and more on the private sector providing chemical sprays and various type of seeds and the supplements which are required for the crops. But at the same time, the significance of checking the soil quality and making sure that how much it is impacted because of the climatic conditions and what is going to be more profitable in the next 4 or 5 years for that area. These are the new challenges, and for which government departments are not trained or tuned to provide this service. But we do see some of the new startups, for example, and some of the IT sector entrepreneurs coming forward, and they have started providing these services. Now, the challenge is that our government institutions and systems are agile enough to incorporate these local solutions into the policy processes or into the delivery systems. I think that is a very big challenge, because we do have solutions, maybe at a small scale level, but we have to really make an effort to take these solutions to a scale where we can ensure that these adaptation practices are adopted at the provincial level in all the districts. So I think that is a question which I would like to ask to the government officers who are engaged in this process, that what are the mechanisms that we are putting in place to ensure that these SMEs providing solutions, these tech entrepreneurs providing solutions, and the local level entrepreneurs are integrated into the procurement mechanisms, into the delivery systems. I think all of us need to think. When I was working on the e-commerce policy, we tried to change the procurement PEPRA rules, that as something should be added to incentivize procurement from these local solutions. That is one way. But at the same time, I think provincial governments need to encourage this type of innovation and local level solutions. Maybe we can have challenge funds to promote these type, to encourage and incentivize these type of solutions. We can have grant funds to promote research on these innovative approaches, so that these are in the mainstream. And very good examples were given in the, for example, architecture side, and some of the resilience initiatives which have been started. So my perspective to all these innovative approaches, irrespective of the fact that in which sector these are, that we need to address our failure to scale these solutions. I think we can maybe have a separate research or study on this, where district, provincial, federal, and the development partners can sit together and pinpoint the areas where we need to make changes to first of all bring all these innovative and local solutions at the forefront, and then look at the governance mechanisms which need to be changed to take them to a scale. Because I cannot believe that Pakistan does not have the youth which is not ready to provide solutions. We already have solutions. In fact, we are a nation which can export these solutions to rest of the world. But how do we create an enabling environment for youth to take these solutions to a scale not only for the country, but for rest of the world as well. So I hope you had a very good session today, and the Ministry of Climate Change is always there to work with the development partners and with the provincial governments to take all these concepts to the community, and wherever our services are required, you will find me and my team just a call away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your remarks. And today, I think more than your remarks, you have posed a very relevant question to all the government officers. I think that's that, and you have also provided a solution. That first we need to identify where have we, where were we wrong in context of climate action, in context of implementation and enforcement, where were we lacking? And then the solution is that maybe we all need to sit together and pinpoint the challenges openly, and also develop a mechanism for accountability so that enforcement is ensured. And when we talk about enforcement, like you started your remarks with, talking about school children and farmers and women, enforcement is exactly how we are giving it back to the community. And that is why it's important that the Madam Secretary has talked about enforcement, accountability, monitoring, evaluation in her remarks, as all other speakers have echoed. So thank you so much for joining. But यहाँ पे एक question है, I have been reading the questions in the Q&A box. एक बात है जो हर ऐसी मीटिंग के एंड पे आती है, कि भाई पिछले इतने सालों से कुछ नहीं हुआ, अब क्या हो जाएगा। देखिए, ऑप्टिक्स की जब हम बात करते हैं ना, इस वेबिनार में आपकी पूरी गवर्नमेंट बैठी हुई है, आपके डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर्स बैठे हुए हैं, खैबर पख्तूनख्वा शामिल, पंजाब, सिंध, बलोचिस्तान, कम्युनिटी शामिल आपकी, ठीक है, आपके डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर्स शामिल, आपकी फेडरल गवर्नमेंट शामिल। इसका मतलब है कि सारे काम कर रहे, करना चाहते हैं। अगर 12 सालों में या 30 सालों में नहीं हुआ तो जस्ट मूव ऑन। आई मीन वी नीड टू मूव ऑन। नहीं हुआ तो हम उसका रोना नहीं रो सकते, नहीं हुआ, अभी हो रहा है, अभी ठीक होने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ठीक करने का मतलब ये नहीं कि आज हम बैठे हैं और कल ठीक हो जाएगा, या अगले 2 सालों में आप एक बिल्कुल कुछ नई तब्दीली देख लेंगे। नो, इट्स गोइंग टू टेक टाइम। बट व्हेन ये चीज दिखा रही है कि विलिंगनेस इज देयर, इन सबको इनविटेशन एक दफा गया एंड दे ऑल एग्रीड, सो दिस शोज हाउ सीरियस they are about this challenge of climate change. ठीक है, we have had our challenges. Madam Secretary mentioned, Dr. Saad mentioned, all the government officers mentioned. Yes, we have had our challenges, but now when this perspective is shifting, why not, engage and collaborate and talk about how we can partner with each other to improve the enforcement mechanism instead of bashing all the time. Yes, you should bash, you should criticize, it is your right, but not when things are moving forward with some passion and enthusiasm and with collaborations. Sometimes we have to take a step back, reflect, and just move on. So I think this is a message, and thank you so much everyone. I think this is one of those sessions जो हम बड़े अरसे से करना चाह रहे थे और ये आज हो गया है। इसमें फेडरल गवर्नमेंट और सारी प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट्स का बहुत शुक्रिया, एंड ऑल द डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर्स, यूएनडीपी, नेशनल एडेप्टेशन प्लान टीम, मिस आफिया, कम्युनिटी पर्सपेक्टिव, फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट से, आई थिंक आपका बहुत जबरदस्त इनपुट रहा है। और ये सिंध, बलोचिस्तान, केपी की बात नहीं, या ये जीबीएफ एचएके की बात नहीं है, ये पंजाब की बात नहीं है, पूरे पाकिस्तान की बात है। और हमने आइडेंटिफाई किया है कि क्लाइमेट चेंज इस वक्त सबसे बड़ा थ्रेट है, and this fuels the geopolitical tensions as well. We have witnessed last year. So why not move forward with this takeaway that we will collaborate, set our differences aside, and let's collaborate and work towards a better Pakistan that is climate friendly and sustainable. Thank you so much, everyone. And if there are any more questions, we are happy to take them over emails, and we will be having follow-up meetings and sessions, and we will keep you updated in context of what is the progress on DAPS. So thank you for joining. Have a good day and enjoy your Ramzan too.
Thank you, Maraj. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hafiz.